The Solar Podcast is brought to you by Continental Energy Solutions. I'm Tim Montague, your host. Welcome to the show. Today we're going to talk about proposal software as a service for the commercial and residential solar industry. My guest today is Adam Gerza of Energy Toolbase. Welcome to the show, Adam.
Thanks for having me, Tim.
It was a major earth-shattering event for me, honestly, Adam, when I discovered Energy Toolbase and started using it. And it's funny because now that I've used it for 3 years, it's a very easy to use tool. It's very intuitive and time efficient. But I will say that it was a little bit of a mind bender getting into the platform and learning how to use it. And I probably drove Ryan Dixon, my customer support agent, totally insane, and he probably wanted to shoot me. But let's dive into what Energy Toolbase is and how you have grown into the market. But before we do that, how did you get interested in renewable energy?
Yeah, happy to start there. And that's a cool story to kick things off. Really cool to hear that you're a 3-year user. So I want to dig into that. But yeah, just on my side, I've been in the industry, I think going on 12 years now, starting to lose count. I got into the industry with a regional solar design build firm, a developer based in San Diego, Sullivan Solar Power. It's actually a pretty well-known one in California.
Yes, I've heard of Sullivan.
Sullivan Solar. It's actually, a lot of alumni have come out of Sullivan Solar, including the gentleman who founded Energy Toolbase, John Gursky. It's where I met him, I guess, 12 years ago now. At Sullivan, I did a number of different roles, largely a lot of project development, a lot of commercial project development. So I was just, the guy out there trying to land deals, line up the financing, and close them. And then also right before I joined Energy Toolbase about 6 years ago, I did a 2-year stint on the policy side, kind of in like a government affairs role, which was a really, really awesome experience. Probably one of the coolest things to this day that I feel like I've done in the industry. Just got to go really deep into the weeds on a bunch of regulatory issues, general rate case proceedings. I got to work on the net metering 2.0 proceeding. So really, got to see how the sausage was made on policy, on the regulatory side, on the legislative side. And now fast forward to also had one failed startup mixed in there for about 18 months that I launched several years ago that didn't end up making it, trying to aggregate and broker renewable energy credits in California. And then most recently, I've been with Energy Toolbase for about 6 years now.
Got it. Yeah, it's great to have that experience, in the trenches, so to speak, of how solar installers do their work, the challenges we face, which are myriad. And it's a very competitive industry. It's a very dynamic industry. There's a constant flow of new products and innovations coming our way. There's tremendous price pressure, which is a good thing. I was just talking to Costa at Panoclaw, and he's really jazzed about getting rooftop solar below 1 penny a kWh. And that is in some respects a holy grail. We're about 1.4 cents, 1.3 cents for large scale solar across the globe, but I'm happy if I can get to, 5 cents. And so Energy Toolbase has a very unique and steadfast niche in the proposal space. I've used a couple of other tools which honestly can't touch Energy Toolbase. Once you dive into Energy Toolbase and see the flexibility and the quality of the output, and I will do a screen share of a generified Energy Toolbase proposal here, so our viewers can see what I'm talking about. But what are you excited about in this space, and why are you 6 years now at Energy Toolbase?
Yeah, so geez, I don't even have to give the intro because hearing it from a customer is, I think, much more meaningful than just the stock. Here's what we do. But yeah, just for those that don't know, we're best known in the industry as a sales and analysis slash modeling platform. So we're basically really good at modeling and proposing the economics and the savings of both solar and storage projects. And that, one of the areas we go really deep is on the utility rate analysis side. We have an in-house rates team. We track rates all over the country. I think we're up over 50,000 unique rates in our database now. And again, folks are using it like how you're using it. Generally, developers, energy consultants, installers, salespeople, basically running their analysis and generating customer-facing proposals. And then, yeah, in terms of like what we're excited about now, we really had some big news just about 1 year ago to the week. I think you may have heard about this, but we merged with another company by the name of Payson Power. Payson Power was a subsidiary of a company, Payson Systems, right? So Payson Power was in a different line of business. They were basically a energy storage software controls provider. A lot of folks kind of refer to that as EMS, Energy Management System software. So basically, the software, the operating system that controls the dispatch of energy storage systems operating in the field. So post-merger with Payson Power about a year ago, our vision has changed, our product offering has changed and really broadened. And now one of the things we're most excited about is really getting into the energy storage controls game. And from our perspective, it's very, very complementary with what we're already doing and what we're already good at, which is modeling and analyzing the projects. And now we're really in market with, operating those systems in the field.
Yeah, I want to talk about solar and storage, and that is also one of your unique value propositions. It's not without its challenges, especially for us installers in the Midwest. Uh, you're a California company, even though your company is not based in California, as far as I can tell. And what I mean by that is your modeling of energy storage seems to be very focused on demand charges, which is totally legit. And that is a huge market. And in Illinois, we just cannot attack demand charges. They are less than $7 a megawatt hour. And so we attack something called capacity charges, which is it's a subtle difference, but a very meaningful difference for us here in the Midwest. But tell us about how you guys have approached the advent of storage, right? As I was saying to John Weaver, I have a segment of this show called the Clean Power Hour that I do now weekly with John Weaver. And, 3 years ago, storage was just not a common thing to talk about or see in the news. And now every day, new records are being set with solar and storage or just storage alone installations. So storage has really come into its own. And of course, there's still a lot of evolution to go, a lot of price declination to go. Storage is where solar was maybe 20 years ago. And but tell us about that. How have you guys glommed onto storage?
Yeah, that's a great setup, and there's a lot to unpack there. I think maybe a starting point is, your comments on the Illinois market, on how the value proposition, let's say for commercial storage in the Illinois market, is very different from California. That's something we're seeing in, several different markets right now. Another example, we're making a pretty big push into the Northeast, both Massachusetts and New York, where we've been publishing a lot of content and really working to partner with developers up there to hopefully deploy projects in the field. Two more examples where how storage captures value is just really fundamentally different in each of these markets. So I guess that's one thing we're dealing with front and center right now. There is this kind of bespoke nature where, each state or in sometimes regional, utility specific markets have different value streams that you're working to capture. And in order for the storage or solar plus storage project to make economic sense, you're really custom tailoring how you're looking to operate the system and optimize the system and kind of the values you're going after. So that, you know, um, maybe just kind of projecting forward, I think is likely what we expect to see continue as other state markets, come online. It's just the nature of the beast. And like you mentioned out in Illinois, it sounds like it's a bit more of a capacity market today. There's certainly other examples of that. Also, you have the, I don't want to kind of go too deep in the weeds, but you're also seeing, the lines blurring between front of the meter and behind the meter value streams. And in some cases, you're using your storage system to try to tap both of those. And you need to tap both of those, to make economic sense. So definitely one big trend that we're seeing, and I think we're learning a lot about right now. And we'll continue to be hopefully the end goal and the end vision for our product suite and our business now is to really make that development and deployment of energy storage projects more efficient for developers. And it's one of the things that we're just facing head on, really deeply understanding the value in different state markets and how to, best capture that through storage.
Yep. That is a great challenge. Every utility, every region, every state has different value stacks for storage. And so it is fairly deep water. It's exciting water, because storage is the holy grail for solar. It gives you so much potentially added value because storage can work 24/7. Solar works when the sun shines. Storage can work 24/7. And it can do things like provide off-grid operation or resiliency, right? Which is great when you have rolling blackouts, period. Something that you're no stranger to in the Southern California market, right?
No doubt. I mean, that's been just all over the trade press, as you know, this year, and even mainstream press. I mean, you're seeing lots of coverage right now in outlets like the New York Times, like big features on, this recent round of outages, which, weren't even necessarily due to fires or public safety power shutoff events. These were just like literally, does the grid have enough capacity when we have these, multi-day heat waves? So there are it's very top of mind right now in California, that is storage being used for resiliency because there's just all these various threats. I mean, my gosh, over the last couple of years from obviously the widely publicized public safety power shutoff events last year, basically that's the utility shutting down lines to prevent the liability of causing fires. To now some of these, more recent ones. So yeah, it's I think on a lot of our policy calls, like for instance with CALSA, California Solar and Storage Association out here in California, this topic is just front burner right now. And I know it is as well with the regulators over at the CPUC and with the utilities. So there's a lot of mind share right now being directed towards storage for resiliency purposes.
Yep, it's a critical development that we look forward to bringing to the mainstream. Storage is something that everybody wants, but not everybody can afford because it is a significant capital expense. The other advantage, of course, of storage is that you can use the ITC, the investment tax credit, which is currently 26% when you pair it with a solar array. So the economics of storage get much better when you pair it with a solar facility. I want to talk a little bit about some of the nuts and bolts so our viewers can understand what we're talking about, though, with Energy Toolbase. I'm going to share my screen here.
Awesome.
I've got a generic proposal.
Give us a demo.
Yeah. And So, you know, rooftop solar, of course, this is, we're talking about behind the meter solar in this case. 15% of this facility's energy is going to be produced by the solar array. You see here a simple table that the tool generates with your CapEx. And then some of the incentives, these are after tax. That's what the red type means. But we have the smart inverter incentive here in Illinois, renewable energy credits, which are together upwards of 40% of the project's
Incredible.
value coming back. And then state depreciation, the ITC. This is an older proposal, so this is probably at 30%. And then something called bonus depreciation, which is a form of maker's depreciation. Anybody in manufacturing knows that you can depreciate equipment. Solar equipment has special depreciation called bonus depreciation. But so at the end of the day, you know, you're already significantly reducing the cost of the system with all of these incentives, and that is one of the great things that is making solar go mainstream. Solar does have, excuse me, solar has unique incentives, but all energy sources, whether they're oil or gas or nuclear or coal, enjoy incentives. And that is just the reality of energy markets and energy infrastructure. So don't think for a second that solar has special treatment from the government. It does not. Those subsidies for fossil fuels are actually much greater by a factor of 10. And so that's where federal and state leadership is so important to level the playing field. And that's where, you know, California has done a great job and is now the leading market. I think Texas is now nipping at your heels as the top market for, you know, quantity of installed solar, both on an annual and total basis. But, you know, it's amazing, Adam, in California on a windy spring day, you guys are enjoying upwards of 50% wind and solar on the grid in California. That is just awesome. And we have so much runway still to go, right? I don't know if you want to comment about the growth of the industry.
Yeah, well, maybe just starting at this table because I can't take my eyes off it because I don't look at projects in Illinois as often as I do projects in California, but it's that is nothing short of incredible right there. I mean, you're down below what 10%
Right.
of gross cost relative to net cost after those incentives. I know the Illinois market has really been driven. And by the way, kind of preparing for this talk today, Tim, I went and pulled some anonymized statistics on our database just to see like where Illinois ranks relative to other states in Energy Toolbase in terms of modeling activity. And it's a top 3 state. So we have a ton of users and a lot of highly active users out in Illinois. And I think we do a couple things out there well, you know, obviously with, you know, the deregulated nature of the state and the fact that a lot of times folks are having to create custom rate schedules with custom, you know, generation charges. That's one thing our software has always been really good at. And then also, of course, that Illinois Shines REC program where, you know, depending on the tier you're coming in at, we're good at letting users define what that incentive value is for their project. And then that gets baked into the model we're looking at here. And then the cash flow model.
Right.
And, you know, that flows through to the projection. So
yeah, I want to touch on the REC that you mentioned. Renewable energy credits here. Here we're modeling a $48 REC. You actually, in Illinois, the way the program works, we pay out 15 years of RECs in 5 years. So it's an accelerated payout. And then, so you're basically taking that 48 and multiplying it by 3 to determine how quickly it's going to pay out in a 5-year period. And that is a very generous REC.
certainly is.
You know, there's an open market for RECs. The Pennsylvania market is one of those, and RECs are maybe $5. So, and RECs are very analogous to a feed-in tariff. A REC is 1 megawatt hour of electricity produced by a renewable energy facility, and 1 megawatt hour is 1,000 kWh. So anyway, it's a very generous incentive. We have a block program, so the program rolls out in blocks, and these are just chunks of RECs. we've gone through 4 blocks and they declined slightly from block to block. And now we're in a holding period or a waiting period between block 4 and block 5. We don't know when block 5 is going to open, hopefully in the next year or two, but it could be longer. And we need new legislation to augment our RPS. That's the Renewable Portfolio Standard, which is really the foundation for vibrant solar markets. Anybody can attach a solar array to their building in most states. They just won't necessarily gain the true benefits of that solar energy, for example, if they don't have net metering. So anyway, I like to say that you have to, really get familiar with your state. What are the incentives? What are the rules? We have good rules in Illinois. We have retail net metering for up to 2 megawatts behind the meter, which is a large industrial facility. I do work with facilities that could use 80 megawatts. And I would just love to install an 80 megawatt solar facility behind the meter.
I'd imagine.
But then you're in what's called qualifying facility land, which is basically installing a power plant, and the value of energy is very different for that. So I did also want to talk about how we value solar. It's a common misperception that you can attack the entire energy bill with a solar array. You can attack parts of the energy bill, and you'll see here columns for energy, and that is just the supply charges. So that's the pure kWh. Then you have demand charges. Demand relates to, periods of time during the day when the grid is being stressed, basically, right? And we are, the grid operator has to respond dynamically to those changes over time. They have to up and down the flow of energy on the grid very dynamically as people are turning on their AC and their microwaves and their TVs at the end of the day, which is why we have that duck curve, right? And so here's the bill, the energy bill prior. Okay, so you see an annual cost of $120,000 basically for energy and $124,000 for demand charges. The demand charges are greater than the energy supply charges.
And half the bill. It's incredible.
Yep. And unfortunately, we cannot attack the demand charges to any significant extent, but Energy Toolbase models how you can attack them. And so here's the after. You can go from 124 to 119 on demand charges. So you can reduce demand charges by $5,000, but the whopper is $20,000 less in supply charges. And that's the real value of solar here, but it's a combination.
Yeah, it's a great illustration of just the economics and mechanics of solar out in the Midwest. I mean, it's just very different because you guys do, relative to the rest of the other 49 states, have relatively low, let's just call it what it is, electric costs, retail electric costs. So
absolutely, and that is a barrier to entry. So our project owners, facility owners, and consumers understand in the Midwest, solar has been slow to grow or come into the Midwest because of the low cost of energy from grid. We have dirty grid power from cheap coal and gas. On the coasts, you're paying 3 or 4 times what we pay in the Midwest. And so the value, just the pure value of a kWh produced by a solar array is greater in those places.
You nailed it.
And so that's back to these incentives that we have. It's a way to level the playing field and give solar a chance. In California, Adam, I've looked at some projects out there. The payback period is maybe 8 to 10 years. In my experience, and in Illinois, now we have a 4 to 6 year payback period. But solar has gone mainstream, and so consumers are demanding it, and they have reasons like wanting to have resiliency and off-grid operation with solar and storage because fires and rolling blackouts for other reasons like the wind events, right? That you guys have periodically. Increasingly frequently, I will note. I did live in California for 10 years, and there was 1 year I lived in San Diego primarily, but also in the Bay Area. There was one year we had rolling blackouts in the early 2000s, and that turned out to be somewhat of a scandal, actually, where the utility operator was gaming the system. And I don't want to dwell too much on that. But anyway, the wonderful thing about Energy Toolbase is it produces these cash flows. That is such an illustrative way to demonstrate the value of solar. And before you use Energy Toolbase, you're using a spreadsheet for the most part. That's what we were using at Continental, and that's what 99% of solar installers are using, I would venture. And
It's what we deem as our, to this day, 6 years in, we still think that's our biggest competition, is
yep,
Excel, because like a lot of folks have built their own model.
exactly. Exactly. So, Adam, let's talk a little more about Energy Toolbase. You guys are growing like wildfire, no pun intended. And there was an acquisition. Tell us about the big picture. How are you guys growing, and what's on the horizon?
Yeah, I mean, in a lot of ways, it's Energy Toolbase 2.0 right now, post acquisition, post merger with Pace on Power. And as I kind of just touched briefly in those opening comments, we now have a much broader vision, and we have a wider product offering. Just to kind of summarize that into the three-pronged product suite that we're really coming to market with. You're absolutely still going to have the Energy Toolbase you know and love on the modeling side, right? So that's our developer platform. And that really won't change a lot, other than we're trying to make a lot of improvements to the platform and roll out features that users are requesting, like yourself, Tim. But that'll still be the objective, transparent, third-party sales and analysis platform where, a developer can come in, use whatever vendors, equipment, financing, rates, incentives they want. And we really want to kind of end up with what you just demonstrated there, a customized customer-facing proposal. So that's the modeling side of the business. We are now in market today with a EMS, an energy management system, which is effectively a controller that determines and optimizes the dispatch of storage systems in the field. And that kind of piece of the puzzle is what Pace on Power had been working on for 4 years when we merged with them last year. So that is going to be a focal point of an offering of ours going forward. And we're, again, already in market today, deploying projects. And it's really hand in hand, we think, with the modeling software, right? Because, ultimately as a developer, you want to project and estimate what the savings of your solar and storage project are going to be based on how the storage project is going to actually operate in the field. Again, very specific to what market you're in, what value streams you're going after. So those two are really hand in hand. And then the third product offering is effectively monitoring and asset management, because especially with storage, let's say once you've deployed that storage project into the field, you really ideally want to be able to understand how it's operating, how much it actually saved, right? We remember what the projection was when you did the analysis originally in Energy Toolbase or your Excel spreadsheet. But we really want to extend what we were good at and what we were known for on our modeling platform, which is transparency, just complete objectivity and transparency into what actually happened. And that will be our, our modeling platform, where you can just, whether it's look at the real-time performance of the system or get alerts on, if if the system is, offline, or, just a kind of maintenance, measurement and verification type features. And then one of the biggest pieces of the puzzle will really be, again, quantifying transparently what actually happened last week, last month. How did it perform? How much did it save, and why? So that's the three-pronged vision, model, control, and monitor, which we're really excited about. We're 6 years into this now at Energy Toolbase, and really proud of the business and the brand that we build on the modeling side. And it's a new challenge in a lot of ways. And it's really exciting because, like you mentioned earlier, storage is, we're early in that inflection point of the curve. And, it's really exciting to be in that market. And it's going to be a fun ride.
Yeah, we're so early. And I mean, truly, in 10 years, everybody's going to have a battery in their basement or garage. Every commercial facility will have a battery in its mechanical room. We have a battery at Continental. We were an early adopter. We wanted to understand frequency regulation, which is also a value stream that solar provides in certain markets, in this case, PJM, which is Northern Illinois or ComEd territory. But so you mentioned that Illinois is a top 3 user of Energy Toolbase, which is surprising to me. I consider Illinois a top 5 state. Um, and of course, that list is a very dynamic list because, like we got FEJA, the Future Energy Jobs Act, in 2017, and that really rocked our world. We were not fulfilling our RPS before we got FEJA. We have a 25% RPS. We now have a governor who's put a stake in the ground for 100% RPS. So we will be following the other 100 cities and states around the country that have already done this. And that is essential for so many reasons. But when you look at the landscape of users and tools, I'm curious, what are the other top markets? Obviously, California is your top market. And as I mentioned, California is at 50% of wind and solar now. And now you see these massive solar and storage projects coming in, replacing gas power plants. And I mean, it's mind-boggling what's going on in California. Here in the Midwest, we're not seeing a lot of utility scale solar and storage yet. We are getting utility solar this year and next. We're going to see like 600 megawatts of utility scale solar. We're in the process of installing 222 megawatts of DG. All said, we're getting 3,000 megawatts in starting in 2019. So 2019 to 2025, we're anticipating 3,000 megawatts. But what are some other hot markets, and where else is Energy Toolbase really valuable for solar and storage analysis?
Yeah, maybe starting with the, let's call it hot energy storage markets. Again, I mentioned earlier, both Massachusetts and New York are very high on our radar right now. I think a commonality that those two states have, kind of going back to why Illinois has been a very strong solar state, it is being driven in large part by state level incentives. So right now, energy storage, a lot of commonalities there. You have some states and utilities that are launching, whether it's incentive programs or just frameworks that make it storage friendly. And both Massachusetts and New York are two good examples of that. So we think they've already been good markets, and they're good runway ahead based on some recent programs. In Massachusetts, there's a lot. I know you have John Weaver on a lot. He can he's the expert up there. But obviously the SMART program, and then also the CPS Clean Peak Standard program that's recently launched is going to make for a good value proposition for adding storage. And then other markets, I mean, Hawaii, for very, very different reasons. Another good example, just to kind of contrast, where it's just an altogether different value proposition out there. Obviously, number one, they have very high retail electric rates. So that's always going to be good for solar and storage. But the big policy shift that's happened out there, and this has happened several years ago, is the sunsetting of net metering. Right. So when you install a solar system, whether residential or commercial, in the Hawaiian Islands, the framework now is when solar exports to grid, the value of that energy gets really, really haircutted. there's a very strong economic incentive to pair a storage system with your solar system to prevent exports to grid. A lot of folks refer to that as like self-consumption or limiting exports. Right now, you're seeing incredibly high attachment rates in Hawaii for that exact reason. You almost have to, in a lot of cases, pair storage with solar to prevent exports, and it's not even like it's just a necessity to make the solar viable. And California, we're on the brink of the big net metering version 3.0 proceeding, which will probably get decided by next year. I'm actually working on a blog right now on that. The proceeding just kicked off, and it may, I don't want to say it's going to look exactly like Hawaii, but there will likely be somewhat of a similar outcome where exported energy will really get reduced, which drives the need for storage. So basically, to sum it up, you can point to a lot of markets. It's going to be driven in places where storage has a strong economic value proposition. That said, what's been really interesting for us as we're relatively early in market with our storage controls product. We've been at that for about a year now after the merger with Payson Power. And some of the early projects that we've deployed to date are in states that you wouldn't exactly expect. They're certainly not like marquee states. For instance, Arkansas. We deployed, I think, our biggest project to date, Tennessee. And we're seeing, some other deals late stage, kind of late in the pipeline that are in not the big, huge markets that you'd think of. So that's encouraging to see.
About New Jersey? I have a colleague in New Jersey named Jim Spano. He is the founder and owner of Spano Partners Holdings. He started a company called MyResi. It's my-resi.com, and they are going after the virtual power plant market with residential storage, excuse me. So they have a partnership with a storage manufacturer. I can't remember which one, but the virtual power plant is a very exciting phenomenon. Once you energize thousands and thousands of these small storage facilities, you can then turn them into a virtual power plant when needed, and really transform the way the grid operates in a specific geography. And when another touch point here is Sunrun, for example, has maps showing all of their installations in cities like LA, and you can actually see the grid of the city just based on those installations. There are so many now solar and increasingly solar and storage installations by companies like Sunrun, right? What do you think about the virtual power plant, and is Energy Toolbase working on that?
Yeah, we're really bullish on that. It's obviously getting a lot of coverage in the trade press right now, I think for good reason. I think if you play it forward 5 years, you're going to see lots of that in many other states. And it's kind of an example, going back earlier, where you could frame it to say that's really a grid services or a utility side of the meter value stream, where oftentimes those deals are getting done with utilities or system operators, where you're capturing value with your storage system. In a lot of cases, additionally, right, marginally above and beyond some of the other value streams where you're arbitraging against the rate tariff. So we're absolutely working on that now, and I think you're going to see lots more of those announcements in the coming years, and we hope to be a player in that market. And again, it's just a perfect example of hopefully being able to tap yet another value stream, because so much of the value with storage, back to kind of some of the stuff happening in California right now, is as a resource for the utility, right, in various events and these non-wires alternatives programs. So very bullish on VPP, and we do expect to play there in the coming years.
And that brings up APIs, and we only have a couple of minutes. We have a hard stop in 4 minutes, but Energy Toolbase integrates with Helioscope, for example, which is wonderful. We love that integration. We're hardcore Helioscope
It's great to
users,
hear.
and I mean, just absolutely love Helioscope. But you integrate with many other makers of software and hardware. Talk a little bit about that in the final minutes.
Yeah, maybe on the solar production modeling side, Helioscope's been a phenomenal partner in integration for us. We've had that live for several years, and we have a lot of power users that on an everyday basis are using Helioscope in conjunction with Energy Toolbase. Um, our view has always been we really want to be agnostic. We really want to be interoperable and kind of play nice with everyone. So whatever your preferred, let's say, solar production modeling tool is, we want to make it really easy for you to use that tool in conjunction with Energy Toolbase. Um, and that extends to that's obviously on the solar side. On the energy storage side, there's, as you're aware, Tim, we have some pretty big name logos in Step 5. Some of the leading players, both hardware and software, in market today. Um, and we absolutely expect and want to continue to have that really healthy ecosystem of different vendors that lives there. Because again, at the end of the day, our loyalty and our customer is the developer, right? That's who's paying for the Energy Toolbase software, and we want to have all of the leading vendors, financiers, solar production modeling tools, energy storage hardware providers, and software providers right there through the platform for them to be able to kind of right through their existing workflow quickly and efficiently model the project. So that's been our philosophy there, and that will continue to be. And it's served us very well. I mean, shoot, going back 6 years now, and the market share we have, I think we can attribute a lot of our success to playing nicely with others. And a lot of our business comes through these channels and referrals where, different vendors encourage their dealer networks to use Energy Toolbase to run their analysis. We absolutely are doubling down on that going forward.
Adam, how can our viewers reach you?
We're really easy to find, energytoolbase.com. I'll maybe do a quick plug. We actually have our big website relaunch happening later this month. Hopefully that should be up by end of September. We're really easy to get a hold of. You mentioned Ryan Dixon earlier. He's one of our senior account managers / integration consultants. We have just the best team of account managers in the biz. We think we have a very high touch service model where, we work very closely with our customers, and we would love the opportunity, if you're not already using us, to kind of show you what we do. We give you a free trial of our software. We get you in touch with one of our account managers, and they'll kind of personally get on a Zoom call with you, just like we're doing here, get you set up, kind of give you a private demo. So really easy to find us, and then of course on all the social media channels and our newsroom. So
I'm
thanks for
glad
the
you
opportunity to plug
mentioned
that.
I'm glad you mentioned the high touch approach, and I can attest to that. It is very unique. They will literally hold your hand face to face for as long as you need to solve the challenges that you face, generating the exact proposal that you want to generate. So check it out, get a free trial. And I want to thank you, Adam Gerza, Vice President of Business Development with Energy Toolbase, for coming on the show.
Tim, thank you so much for having me on. Great seeing you.
Okay, you take care.
Thank you.
You can find all of our content at cesnrg.com. Check us out on YouTube. Please subscribe to our channel. Give us a thumbs up. Hit that bell. And let's grow solar. I'm Tim Montague. Have a great day.